Welcome to the Evolving But Backwards podcast.
Hello and welcome to Evolving But Backwards. My name is Joey.
My name is Marios and this is episode 5
Ne?
of Evolving But Backwards.
What's your last name?
Papa something.
Exactly. It's gonna be a very interesting topic today.
Yes, it will be. Before we start about the topic of the day,
Ne?
I want to set something straight.
Yes, please.
First of all, we got some messages from the Lebanese people that apparently support this endeavor of ours, because I've been talking about Lebanon saying why are they not supporting us. We only had a 2% from Lebanon.
Keep going.
But apparently they do, but they're all abroad. That's why we don't see Lebanon.
So basically you wanted to say I am...
Very sorry to the Phoenicians.
And also, before we get started, we want to give a special shout out to Jorge
And Antigone
and Antigone
for being super supporters of the podcast as well. Because last time we did Ali, and then we're like, yeah, guys, you forgot about us. And it's true because they listen all of our episodes the moment they release.
That's true.
So thank you guys for supporting.
Muchas gracias and evcharisto. Because one is Spanish, one is Greek.
Yeah, but they both speak Spanish, so we can say muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias to both of you. You are both angels in human form. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say.
True. Before we proceed, because I see you are ready.
Ne?
Also, we went for karaoke on Friday night.
We actually did. It was very fun.
Yes, and we singed for the first time Backstreet Boys.
I want it that way.
Tell me why.
Ain't nothing but a heartache.
Tell me why.
Ain't nothing.
We're getting really good at this one.
Honestly, it's like our canon song, our
Yes.
go-to.
Backstreet Boys who?
Who?
We're supposed to sing Prisoner from Miley Cyrus Dua Lipa, about to change our mind. But we also sang What is Love?
Well, with Jorge. But I wasn't familiar with it that much, so I was horrible. But it was fun. That's all that matters. You go to karaoke not to be good, it's just to have some fun.
Yeah, it was a very fun Friday. And on Saturday, because my PC is finally ready, I was playing Hogwarts Legacy for 11 hours. The best Saturday of my life.
On ultra settings, you forgot to say.
Ultra settings, ray tracing,
It matters.
4K. The best. If I have any Potterheads listening, go and play Hogwarts Legacy now. It's a fantasy of a game. If you want to live into the world of Harry Potter, do it.
Wingardium Leviosa, how many spells have you opened so far?
A lot.
A lot. Are you using them? Do you use them all?
Yeah, they're different. Other for combat, for conjuring, defensive. So I have 3 different slots for quick assigning of spells. But my main, let's say 4 spells for combat is Expelliarmus, of course.
The classic?
Yes. The Explosive Curse, Confringo, I think it's how they call it. I have Levioso and Accio. So I lift them up, I bring them close, I hit them, then I explode them. It's very good.
What's the revealing spell? Revelio?
Revelio. Every 2 minutes. Revelio.
Revelio. Sounds like a great game. Hopefully, I'll have the opportunity to try it as well.
Do it, even though a lot of people try to cancel it because of J.K. Rowling. I don't know if you have seen it.
I know it was because of the game, but I know because she said some transphobic things. I don't know the story. I don't have an opinion because I didn't care enough to see what she says, to be honest.
True, me neither. But I know that a lot of people tried to cancel the game. Not only they tried, they even harassed streamers that they were streaming the game. Like there was a guy that made a website that could, as a database, that could ping which streamer is streaming the game, so they can go and bully them.
Jesus.
And that's like too far. I mean,
that is too far. But in a sense, it's gonna like people voicing their opposition, which they're entitled to.
Why would you cancel a video game just because the IP itself is related to...
Because she makes money and they don't want to support her.
Okay, they don't want to support her, but then in the end, it's a game that cost 150 million for developing for 5 years for people that actually worked on this. And it's a game. I mean, it shouldn't be related to what she's saying on Twitter. I mean, okay, maybe she's saying fucked up shit, and I haven't seen what she says. But for people to be angry, it makes sense. But still, they should be a bit separated. It's not directly her.
Would you agree, for example, when R. Kelly molested all these girls?
Who?
R. Kelly, you know, the guy who sings, I believe I can fly, I believe I can touch the sky.
No, I have no idea about that.
You don't know that song?
I know the song. I don't know what happened.
He basically raped underage girls. And so people decided, okay, we're not gonna listen to his music anymore. Isn't it more... I know it's different, but isn't it the same thing that you protest an artist because of their actions in their personal life? Can you really separate the art from the person?
Artist from the art.
Yeah.
I mean, yes.
Yeah. Would you listen to R. Kelly knowing what he did?
I mean, if the dude can be in jail, but still, if it's a nice song that makes you happy, why not?
Okay, that's one point of view. We respect all point of views, even the wrong ones.
Like for real, Hitler, who is not the best man alive,
Understatement of the century.
Yes, he was an artist. So like you will see a painting that looks good, and you'll be like, no, it looks trash because Hitler made it. I mean, you can still be like, okay, it's a nice piece of art, and the dude is a scumbag. He should never have been born.
It's easy with Hitler because he was a shit artist. One of the reasons, I guess, why he went all batshit crazy is because he was denied
going into art school.
Yeah. So with him, it's easy.
Like, at least for me, yes, I might not like someone, but still I might enjoy a song or a movie or something.
Yeah. Probably somewhere in the middle, more leaning towards I will cancel the artist as well.
Yeah, but
I love cancel culture.
Rowling. Don't cancel a video game that was just created based on her world as a franchise. It's not that she made it.
Of course, but she will benefit monetarily off of it. She will make money. That's the problem.
Okay, it's a complex discussion.
Yeah.
Anyway,
on
on today's episode, a bit something different.
All right, what are we gonna talk about?
We're gonna talk about the story of Kim Wall and Peter Madsen. For the Swedish and Danish that listen to our podcast, because you are, thank you, tack så mycket. You will be familiar with the story. For the rest of you, you will get familiar today.
It's a very interesting story. We're gonna see what links these two people together. We can start talking about Peter Madsen. Peter Madsen was a Danish entrepreneur, let's say.
A former entrepreneur.
He's still very much with us, but maybe retired for reasons you will soon find out. I believe he's always been a very ambitious person. He had a rough childhood. His mom moved him around, and I think his dad wasn't there.
Not exactly. Like, his mom was like 30 years younger than his father. She had like a few kids, like 6 kids with 3 different men. And his father was abusive. So she left him, took the kids away, and he went through some houses until he went back to his father.
But while he was young, he showed a lot of promise, let's say. He had interest in rockets, interest he shared with his dad as well, if I'm not wrong.
True, in rocket fuel. And he had the help from his school teachers in chemistry and physics. And he even had like a school project, let's say, that he launched his very first rocket in 1986. Wow. That reached like 100 meters until it came back crashing down. But still, I mean, for a young kid, it
very
was
impressive.
Very impressive into the engineering stuff, let's say.
So he was a very promising young man, let's say, and later on, when he went to university, he specialized in these fields, I'm guessing, right?
Yes, but he actually never finished education, like formal education. That's why he was a self-taught, let's say, engineer. And actually, there was the word that when he was because he started into the university, like his peers said that he wasn't the most, let's say, team player. Like, not everybody liked him. They said that whenever he would start speaking, the sprinkler system would go off or something. He was kind of controversial even in his early life, let's say.
So he wasn't very sociable. We can say that.
Not really.
A smart guy, but not very sociable.
Exactly.
All right. Later on, I believe he achieved something quite impressive. He built his own submarine.
Before the submarine, I mean, he was, yes, he built 3 submarines actually. He was very famous in Denmark. But he was involved in projects that they were building, like floating docks so that they can launch rockets, satellites, and building submarines in Copenhagen, in Denmark. So he co-founded his rivals in the end because they created a project to build submarines, and it was called Copenhagen Suborbitals, if I'm not mistaken, where he actually left the project a few years in, and then he created, I kid you not, like on the next building, like next to them, the Peter Madsen Space Lab. So he started the project with a friend, and a few years later they kind of split up, and he went to the next building to build a rival company, kinda, to compete on the same thing, which was to be, how you call it? When you're not a professional, amateur,
yeah.
amateur like rocket project, space project. So that was the backstory, but he was very well known. They were talking about him in like in the media and whatnot, and he also had a lot of funding from investors, from people, from fans. So
That's
people
what
trusted
supported
him.
his lifestyle. He didn't technically work for a living, let's say.
No, he was living off of his projects and from funds from people because they believed in him, and they liked the fact that he was showing that anyone can do anything as long as you like put your mind to it.
You
So
have
people,
the determination and education.
exactly. So people really trusted him, and for the submarines that you mentioned, he built 3 submarines. They were midget submarines. They were small, the Freya, Kraka, and Nautilus. Nautilus was the biggest one, was the 3rd one.
And it's an integral part of the story that we're going to talk about.
True. The Nautilus costed like 200,000 K, and it was a small submarine, but if I'm not mistaken, it could hold like 3-4 people inside. So, okay, it was technically indeed a submarine that more than one person can fit inside.
It was a popular attraction as well. People went to see it. Do you know if he took people in?
No, they were doing parades because I have watched, and go watch it. There are 2 documentaries about the story in HBO and on Netflix, which is called Into the Deep. And they show all of the backstory behind it. And he was going out with the submarines like for rides, and they were doing parades. So people like were taking photos, and he was doing stuff like.
He was, let's say, not a celebrity, but well known.
He was a minor celebrity, but not in a way that, okay, Rihanna is a celebrity, but in a way how Elon Musk is a celebrity.
Yeah.
That he is like smart and he has done things so people know him. That was the vibe for Peter Madsen.
So, okay, so far he seems, let's say, if I knew nothing else, he seems like a go-getter, an entrepreneur, somebody who's smart, who built himself.
That people like.
More or less, except the sprinkler system.
Yes.
But yeah, usually people with very high intellects aren't the most sociable. So maybe would be understandable why not everybody liked him.
You can see from the documentaries as well that Peter, he was very bright and he attracted people. Like people were going and volunteering for because they were motivated by him that, you know what, we're not going to get paid, but we're going to help and build our homemade rocket and send people in space. That was the last goal, to actually make a spaceship that can hold people and send them into space. So people were volunteering. He was really influential.
Would it be crazy to say that he was the Danish Elon Musk?
I mean,
in a sense,
as we say in Greek, it's an expression that he was Elon Musk from Lidl.
The hate little and jumbo get, I don't get it, but okay. So pretty interesting guy.
True. And in 2016, the main focus of the Kim Wall, asked him for an interview about his submarines and his lifestyle. Being a journalist, Kim...
She was a freelance journalist, I believe.
True,
She worked
she
for
wa-
herself. And honestly, that's a very hard thing to be a freelance journalist. It takes a lot of hard work and motivation to find your own stories and follow through and publicize them all on your own. So
Yes, and like spend money to actually to cover a story and like chase the story, and then whether it's gonna get published or not. So she was very a go-getter.
yeah.
So on the 10th of August 2017, one night before she leaves Sweden to go to Beijing with her boyfriend, she gets a text from Peter Madsen to actually give her the interview, which again shouldn't strike as odd. Peter Madsen was a minor celebrity, people knew him, so she was like, perfect, I'm getting another story that I can make money off of it. She actually had a party with her friends. They were throwing a party for her like goodbye, for her departure, that she actually skipped to go for the interview.
So she didn't go to her party to get to do the interview with Peter.
Exactly. So she goes to meet Peter on the 10th of August at 7 in the afternoon. She texts her boyfriend that, okay, I'm here. We're going under now, like that they would submerge. I'm still alive. I love you. That's a text that she sent her boyfriend. They also took a photo from both of them being on the Nautilus, leaving the bay, let's say, to drive in further down to submerge into water. And even though there was supposed to be a 2-hour interview, so from 7 to 9, they should be back. They were never back.
The submarine was never back.
At least for the time frame that they should. Her boyfriend got a bit anxious of what's going on, but still there was no news about it. He called the police immediately to start looking for her, and the Nautilus was found next morning at 10:30 or 10:30 to 11, let's say.
Where was it found?
It was found in Copenhagen, in a bay. I don't remember. Like the names are a bit difficult for me to pronounce. I think it's Kokke Bay in Copenhagen.
Absolutely, I would go with that. Yes.
Maybe I'm wrong. Apologies, Philot, to our Nordic listeners.
Tak.
So they find the Nautilus, but only Peter Madsen in it. Like the police went there with boats. They find the Nautilus submerged, like sunken, and they find Peter Madsen swimming around, asking for help. So they take him to shore, and they arrest him immediately.
Oof! Right away.
Thank God that they are actually in Scandinavia, not in Greece, because probably they would have let him go. In any case, they take him into custody while they search of what happened to Kim. And they ask him, where is Kim? And he said, Kim is alive. I dropped her off last night around 10.
At land. He just said land.
Yes, I left her at land. He actually gave a location, if I'm not mistaken. But again, difficult to pronunciate, so I'm not going to try it. So his story when they bought him is that there was a malfunction in the submarine and it sank. But before this happened, I've dropped off Kim at land around 10 in the night, so 3 hours after their departure, let's say, into the submarine. So that was his story. They still keep him into custody, but they are trying to figure out what happened. They go check the submarine. They try to find Kim, and
she was nowhere to be found at that moment.
Nowhere to be found. On the 21st of August, so 2 weeks later, roughly, a cyclist that was bicycling around finds a torso washed up in on the beach.
A human torso.
A human torso.
Oh no.
Calls the police, they check it out, and with DNA they see that it was Kim Wall's torso.
Oof.
That was actually stabbed so that it doesn't hold any air to float, and that there is iron pipes stuck into the torso so that it sinks into the water and doesn't float.
So we can pretty much say it was not an accidental stabbing, 15 times stabbing.
It looks premeditated in the sense that he was like he had pipes there to do it and whatnot. So they find the torso and they tell him that okay, we found her body, and then he changes his story, saying that okay, yes, Kim is not alive. I didn't kill her. She died by accident. So the first thing that he said as a cover for what happened is that they were in the submarine, they were outside, and like the submarine has this huge door that's like super heavy, like made out of metal,
kind of thing.
a hatch door. So he was holding the hatch door for her to go into the submarine, and then he slipped, or she slipped, and the
Hester fell on her head and cracked her head.
Exactly. That the door fell on her head and fractured her skull, so she died. And then because he was scared of getting accused, he dismembered the body and stuck it with pipes and threw it into the water. That was
a normal human reaction. A very normal human reaction.
Exactly. A mistake happened. Okay, let me dismember a body and throw it into the sea.
And at this point, they just have her torso, nothing else. They saw that it was stabbed, but they could not necessarily confirm that or deny his story that the hatchet actually fractured her skull and killed her.
They could already, let's say, prosecute him for the dismembering of the body, the defiling a person, but still they couldn't say that he murdered. Like, obviously there were accusations, but nothing that can be proven yet. And fun fact from the movie and documentaries that I have watched, the Swedish and Danish police, they were like super fast to investigate. They hired a professor that he was into studying how the water flows and the currents, so that they can pinpoint the rest of the body. That he helped them a lot, and again, shout out to the Scandinavian police. So
they also got cadaver dogs. They were very well prepared. They attacked this investigation from all fronts.
Police divers. They even asked military submarine experts whether this could happen or not, and everybody said that it wouldn't have sunk, because he said how it happened, and everybody said that this is a deliberative attempt for him to sink the submarine.
You know, it's surprising to me for such an intelligent guy, that he couldn't have come up with something more plausible, let's say.
I guess he had to think on his feet, and I will explain later about the murder itself. Mm-hmm. So on the 21st and 29th of November, so much later, the police divers found the rest of Kim pretty much. They found her arms and legs, and also they found her head.
Oof. He had decapitated her.
And what they found on the head is that there was no fracture, like a blunt force trauma from a door.
There you go.
So they saw that he was lying again, and they asked him, and then he changed his story again. As any normal human being that wasn't lying would do, he changed the story again. Instead of saying that, yes, he died from an accident from the door and his skull was fractured and la la la. Now he changed the story and saying that, yeah, actually this is not how it happened. I was outside the submarine, and while the submarine was malfunctioning, it created toxic gas inside the chamber, so she died of asphyxia pretty much. And they did more analysis on the body, and they didn't find any, like the toxicology's the reports for any toxic elements in the lungs and whatnot came out clean. So that was also a lie.
Another debunked theory that he was trying to sell, basically.
True. So they had a lot of evidence stacked against him and his story, because, I mean, if you put into the perspective. So there are these two people, they go into a submarine for a 2-hour interview, they find him next morning, and he's all alone in a sunken submarine, all alone. Then they find the body dismembered with pipes in the torso so that it sinks. Every story he says is with evidence disproven.
Then they found the head, the legs, the clothes, and a knife also.
And the knife that he used to stab her. They found semen
on his underwear, because when he got arrested, everything was taken from him. And they found semen in his underwear, which I believe later on it's mentioned in the trial, which he also denies, of course, that he didn't ejaculate, let's say?
He said a lot of things. And by the way, like, imagine being Kim's like boyfriend that, okay, your girl or wife are gonna go to work, you're gonna move out the next day, she just gonna chases a story, and then you get a text like, okay, I love you, I'm still alive, and actually...
It's such an ominous message to send. I'm still alive. I'm sure she had no idea, and to write it is so ominous. It's so ominous.
But to write this, I'm sure that they had some kind of second thoughts. In
Do
a way,
you think?
maybe they thought that what if something happens to the submarine and you drown or something. I don't think that they were expecting a murder. Obviously, who expects that?
And they
who
were
goes to work and like,
moving.
I'm gonna get murdered?
And they were moving the next day to start like a new chapter in their life. They're moving to Beijing, and they had a party, and everything was going great for them. I'm guessing they were both successful, and this shit happens. That's crazy.
It is. So in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, they actually convict him for premeditated murder.
Okay, he got nailed for it.
He got nailed for it. Where he actually tried to escape. 2022, and he actually did, but for 500 meters, and then they just found him sitting on the ground. They just put him back in jail. So he's now in for life.
He escaped. By the way, fun fact: he had a relationship with one of the female wardens, and
he's still influential. I mean, people in that mindset, they are very influential. They know how to speak to people. They lack of empathy because he's
a psychopath.
Yes, they said he's a narcissistic psychopath as a psychological review that is fully aware of what he's doing. It's not that he's delusional or something, and lacks of empathy. So there is another bit of this story. We've already talked that his project had the Rocket Madsen Space Lab had volunteers. One of these volunteers was Sarah.
Tell us about Sarah, Marius.
So Sarah was a young girl working as a volunteer to his space lab. They were very close to each other, and they were talking like they've known each other for like a year while she was there, and they were very close. They were talking, and a day before the actual murder happened, he texted her like, what's up, what are you doing, la la, and she was like, I'm trying to work and I need to get a bit motivated. And he replied that, okay, you need to go back to work, otherwise I'm gonna kill you. And
he actually said that, I'm gonna kill you.
Yes. And then she was like, okay, how would you do that? And then he started describing the actual murder that he did next day.
Holy shit. So Sarah was his original target.
Exactly. So Sarah was the original target, that they were actually close to each other. They've known each other for a year, like on a daily basis. And he told her that I'm gonna tie you up and then stab you in the chest and then dismember your body. Like, he said everything.
Because with Kim, the prosecution accused him of either slashing her throat or strangling her. So
yes.
Basically, it's exactly what he told Sarah.
They used that text as evidence as well, because it shows that pretty much this was a premeditated murder. Like, he knew what he was doing. He just wanted to experience murder. And imagine in Sarah's position that you know somewhere, let's say me, that I know you for more than a year, and I'm like, you're my friend, la la la, and then you're actually plotting to kill me. And she was lucky because I guess he remembered Kim, or Kim texted him for the interview, and he was like, okay, that's
easy target.
Yeah, easy target.
And they also found a lot of weird stuff on his computer, like women being murdered. I believe there
asphyxiation, fetishes, decapitations.
He went to fetish sex parties, apparently, and they found videos of him like practicing or doing asphyxiation sex or something like that. So during the investigation and trial, there were a lot of indicators that something was off. Not that asphyxiation sex is wrong. If that floats your boat, guys, go for it. But having videos of people getting murdered on your computer, I would say that's a definite red flag. Flag.
It shows that he was actually obsessing about it, like that he wanted to experience this.
It's kind of terrifying that he was such a well-respected member of society. Someone you'd never expect to do something like this, but in all honesty, it's never the people you expect. It's never the people you expect. Be careful, Marius. But all in all, while this is a fascinating case, and of course there's more to talk about, it's really tragic. I feel sometimes when with these things, the murderer gets, I don't know, gets more famous, gets immortalized in popular media, while the actual victim, which I would like for the focus of this episode to be actually Kim, because she's the one who lost her life. She's the one who basically lost it all. And it's just really a reminder to always be careful. Watch your backs.
True, and actually Kim's family created like a foundation, like a fund, so that they can support what Kim was doing pretty much for journalists. So there is some aftermath, let's say, at least from Kim's family, but still it's tragic. And I really can't think how the boyfriend would feel about this, and also Sarah, that she was supposed to be the victim. Like, how do you continue your life after
Imagine
this?
the guilt. Imagine the guilt. I'm sure at
The survivor's guilt.
Exactly. At a certain point, as a human being, maybe it's fucked up to say, but maybe she's glad it wasn't her. But at the same time, there's that incessant voice that's gonna be like, somebody's dead, and maybe it's your fault. Of course, it's not her fault, but survival's guilt is a real thing. So I can imagine. Do you think, though, talking about this, do you think there were any indicators that Peter had these kind of tendencies?
No. And thank you. It's a very nice segue to the next part that I want to mention, that he was working closely with a lot of people, like in the space lab. And all of them loved him. Like, okay, they were a bit angry at him sometimes because he was shouting, he was very bossy, because he was like really focused to do what he wanted to do. But people loved him. Like, he was a leader, like people were following him. And you can see from the documentary that in the beginning when this happened and they started talking about, they were like, okay, no way that Peter did anything like that. Like, they couldn't believe what happened. And as the days were going by, and you can see, like, from then talking to each other that, okay, so they found Kim's torso. Like, for the first few days, they were like, no way this happened. There must be an explanation. No way that he did it. Like, they couldn't believe that someone that they've been working together for, like, the Nautilus, the submarine, took 3 years to be made. So there were people that were working for him for minimum of 3 years. So they couldn't believe. And then when they found the body, some people were like, still, no, something else must have happened. Yes, it's what he's saying. And then others were like, no, guys, what are you saying? Obviously, he murdered her. And then there is the other thing of this being a premeditated murder, that, first of all, there is no reason to have steel pipes in the submarine. So he planted them there preparing for the murder.
And I think there was a video footage that was used for the trial, where one still video or picture showed a saw, and the next time it was shown, the saw wasn't there.
Exactly. Into the Deep, it's like a documentary movie made from an Australian filmmaker, that she actually moved from Australia to Denmark so that she can make a movie for him around the time of the murder.
This was before anything.
Before the murder,
she liked and all of that.
She was just very interested to his story, and she's like, okay, I'm going to make a film. Καλά, she struck gold, to be honest. Like, she was liking all of this tragedy, and also her footage helped for the trial as well. So it was the correct person at the correct time, let's say. So she was filming the film, and there is different footage from him speaking and the crew and whatnot. That's why you can find all of this into the documentary. So she went there to film him like 6 months before the murder, and then after, like the wreckage that he left. So she started filming him in his day-to-day and how they do the launch pad and the satellites and the submarines. And there is a footage from the day of the murder where you can see in the background that there is a yellow handle saw, if I'm not, like a handsaw. And then he goes on to the voyage with Nautilus and Kim. And then she's doing like an interview with someone else from the crew, that you can see in the background that the saw is no longer on the bench. That he planted the pipes, he took the saw, like he was planning to do this. And then including all of these videos that were found from him practicing his fetish and all the videos from decapitation. So it was obviously that he just wanted to experience this firsthand. Like, why would you watch these videos and get obsessed with it if you're not into that? Which is disgusting.
Of course, there's something broken there, and the main matrix of that guy, definitely not normal. It's petrifying to think that your neighbor, who the hell knows what your neighbor is doing?
There was a guy in his crew that he was funding him, if I'm not mistaken, that they knew each other for years. He loved the guy, like he couldn't believe it in the beginning. And he said, if I'm not mistaken, like a week ago, because Peter was the godfather of his son, they went to his house to have a party, and like, you cannot think that your friend that you know for 10 years and baptize your kid or whatever, that he's in your house, that you're feeding him and enjoying your time with him, he actually is planning to murder someone like next week. It's super fucked up, and it's also fucked up in the end of the film that he says a lot of things, like how to hide in plain sight, because he was like, I've always done things that are borderline illegal with my entrepreneurship and trying rockets and whatnot, and how to get away with it, that you just need to lie. So if you keep consistent on a lie, people will believe it. Oof. Which is pretty much what he did. So because he was a psychopath and a narcissist, he was hiding in plain sight pretty much. And then he also said that there are some people, like this is what he said, that there are some people that is what society is calling predators, that they are stalking people and they can murder anyone at any time, that they're thinking different than other people.
So basically he was just describing himself.
Exactly, because that was a whole mentality of when the filmmaker was talking to him, he was pretty much throwing some hints here and there, I think, describing himself. Like that was a whole vibe of the discussion. If you see the film, that's what you're gonna get as well.
Maybe that was a cry for help. You never know. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit.
Yes, you do. And again, we should think about the victims and not the murderers. Don't idolize the murderers.
Absolutely. From these stories, always, guys, because mainstream media always I think, romanticizes the killer. Let's remember who lost their life. Let's actually remember that.
Same with Jeffrey Dahmer, and what was the other guy with the pentagram on his forehead? Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn Manson.
Yeah, like you are gonna idolize the murderer because they're involved in a very high stakes murder or whatever, but in the end of the day, the murderers are the ones that lost their life. The victims are the ones that lost their life, so we should think about them.
Siento.
That's why the episode today, we start saying that this was the story of Kim. And not Peter's. In any case, another grim episode a bit, but still murder episodes are kind of fun in their way, that we need to look around for the clues and the evidence and make a storyline out of what happens, how you call it?
Yeah, it's kind of like playing a puzzle game. You're trying to find all the clues to make a big picture at the end of the game, let's say.
If you were one of Peter's friends, would you think that he did it? A reply to the poll underneath.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
In any case, that's it for today. We hope you enjoyed it.
Hope you had a great time.
Even though this episode is a bit shorter than our previous ones, but again, doesn't have to be an hour and 55 minutes. This one's going to be like around 40. Perfect for the time you go from your house to go to your work. You can put on your car to your headphones.
All planned.
Exactly. Right. So guys, seeing you next week. I don't think we're going to do a murder episode next week again, but we're going to do another one later.
For sure.
So thank you for listening.
Ευχαριστώ.
See you next week and bye.
Bye.